Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. Today, we have some awesome hoops talk to dig into with Leah B. Olsen. Not only some congratulations coming her way, but so much going on with men and women and a little bit of controversy going on in the world of basketball. So we're going to dig into that.
Yes, great to have Leah in studio with Dawn. This is Dawn of Sports. Dawn, of course, anchor at Fox 9. This is TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you through the Aquarius Home Service Studios. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's the easiest way to listen, and we do appreciate it so much. WNBA draft, expansion draft, new CBA, Gino Auriemma. Leah also covers the Minnesota Timberwolves as well as the Minnesota Lynx. But I'll save the congratulations for Dawn.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, Leah, you know we love having you on. And so this is like the perfect time to say congrats. When I had you on to tape our Unscripted, you said that hopefully there'd be something bigger in the future in terms of network stuff. And lo and behold, there is. Congrats. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I have been kind of vetted over the summer by USA Networks, which is going to be USA Sports. That is a brand new entity that is going to be covering the WNBA. And they're going to have more games than anybody else. They're going to pick up 50 games, and it's a national broadcast. They're going to do a doubleheader every Wednesday. And so I will be one of the analysts of many. They put together a really nice crew, which is like former WNBA players and just kind of a really fun mix of broadcasters. They're going to have a pre-post show, and we will travel to the games. And so I'll be back on the road again. And then I will also try and fit in as many Lynx games as possible as well. So kind of want to remain loyal to the Minnesota Lynx as much as I can. But it's a great opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And I just love this because you did some network stuff before. Mm-hmm. You had your family. It's, you know, we always talk about how women can't sometimes have it all at the same time.
Right.
So to come full circle, that must make you feel great.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because that was a big part of it for me. Is like you make a decision, and my decision was to go part-time to raise 2 children, and those children are in their 20s now. So life passes by, and then I was able to work my way back in and back up to that level. So that is something I'm really super proud of and excited for, to be able to do that work without feeling guilty about missing little people. So
yeah, for sure. Well, let's dig into the controversy first, since it's all fresh and everyone's talking about it. You know, Gino Auriemma, UConn, Dawn Staley, and then of course the victory for UCLA and how that was all handled, and Dawn showing the love. It's kind of, I'm still processing it all. I know I went out there on social media and said, okay, Gino and UConn, here, I fixed it for you, because the apology never mentioned Dawn Staley's name, which is it truly an apology? It kind of seemed to skim the surface, but there's just so much to dive into. So just starting general with that whole altercation on the court, because you have seen it all. What was your first take, or was your first take your take that you have now?
Well, first and foremost, I think that it happens, and it happens quite a bit at the highest level. You see coaches have their breakdowns and their inability to handle the bad moments like they hope that their players will handle the tough moments of losing huge games. I felt like this, for me, was a little bit different because it felt like there was some arrogance mixed in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big Gino fan. I've worked on broadcasts with him. The Lynx have had a lot of his players, and Coach Reeves has always said if they're coming out of UConn, they're ready to play in the W. So we all know what his success is. But the way he did that, it felt like it showed just this unwillingness to hand over to Dawn what she had earned. And it really hijacked the storyline of like, that was one of the best games that her team had played in the entire season, and just kind of just broke apart his UConn team. And it was really wild to see. And I felt like we did not have that conversation after that win because of him kind of taking that space over. Mm-hmm. I thought Dawn handled it all quite well, with, her willingness to be like, well, yeah, let's go, toe to toe. She was willing to do that. And then afterwards, she was kind of putting it back on him. Like, this is no longer for me. This is for Gino to handle and deal with. I've moved on. And then the way that she handled her loss to UCLA, I think was, her purposefully showing that there is a way to do this with grace and respect, as it should be. It also flashed me back to when Gino and Pat Summitt used to battle each other. I felt like he did that same thing to Pat Summitt. And Pat, in my eyes, is like the star of all the coaches, because she was the first big one and she was the most intense. And she was the one who really showed like women's basketball could be that top level. And I don't know, it felt a little disrespectful sometimes the way that they would interact with each other. Part of it, I think, is just his style.
Mm-hmm. My question following that is, it seemed personal, but it also is a bit deeper. Like Gino maybe didn't know how to handle success, like you said, passing the torch, going down in some people's eyes. But he specifically talked about she was 3 minutes late for the opening handshake. Was that, some people are saying, well, that's just a cover story. That's just smoke and mirrors. It just seemed personal. And it seemed personal when he talked about it. It seemed personal as he went at her. And it seemed personal that they left her name out of the apology. So, and we all know that can happen. And if we see men coaches having personal, things with each other too.
Sure.
We can go to the NFL and just look at Chicago and Green Bay, their head coaches. So how did that strike you?
I felt like it was maybe for him, but not for her. So I don't really know that it is that they've had some beef or that there was something that they've done to each other. I think he was, if she was late, we know that they shook hands. If she was late to the circle, maybe that did annoy him. Well, that's really his issue.
Yeah.
I just didn't get the sense that there was some long history of things. At the end, he said, we don't have anything in common. We're not friends. Well, okay, that's fine too, because, they probably haven't crossed paths outside of, she was a coach under him in the Olympics. And so what they do have in common is they're both head coaches of the two biggest programs in women's basketball. That's a pretty big thing to have in common. So to me, again, it felt like something he woke up the next day and felt probably embarrassed for, but didn't really know how to come off of that.
Right. Right. And then it's a hard situation to put maybe his former players, like Nafisa, she was at the game. I think Paige Beckers was at the game.
Yeah, they sure were.
And I think on social media, they distorted it. They showed their reactions that looked disappointed, but that reaction was to what was going on in the game. That was not
correct.
There. I hate when people manipulate that situation. So it's like you said, he's had a great success, a track record, and it puts all the women in that weird spot to deal with it.
Yeah, it just wasn't necessary. And I get it though, things can happen during games, and we've seen that with our own coaches here. Things boil over in these games. I especially think when you're asked to go right into the media room and get hit with questions. That's usually where you see the meltdown happening with a coach. So I'm not really surprised by any of that. I think that's the normal part about it. So I just think it's one of those things that in the end he'll regret.
He should. He was petty and he was wrong. What I find interesting is that we all covered the Final Four in Minneapolis, and South Carolina beat UConn in the championship game. I think what's different is that I think Gino knew South Carolina had the better team that time. I think this time, undefeated team, maybe 2 of the 5 best players in college basketball, and he got his butt kicked. And I think he was really embarrassed. I think he thought he was going to win another national title, and I think he was embarrassed by how badly he got beaten, and he just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I actually thought UConn was going to win it all too.
I did too. I thought UConn was going to win. I didn't know anybody was going to come close to him, and South Carolina took them apart.
Yeah, the defense was wildly good in that game.
He got outcoached in that game.
Yeah,
and he's a great. I'm not diminishing him as a coach.
He's a great coach.
He's a great coach, but he got outcoached in that particular game.
Agreed.
Well, and then he also tried saying, well, I've never seen a jersey ripped off a player before in my entire life. He tried to make it sound like they were out there throwing fists and stuff like that, so if your team was outplayed physically too, that's on you as well. You got to motivate your women, right?
Yeah, there was receipts for all of the things that he was complaining about.
Yes.
So
Well, we all know, like turning to the Lynx, that, hey, Cheryl has had her share of fiery moments.
Absolutely.
You know, whether it's on the court, whether it's in post game that we have seen as well. So yes, but he didn't walk back his comments after the game. So it took him maybe some prodding from the U. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But when it comes to the WNBA now, because we said there's so much going on right now. We saw the expansion draft. Some people were surprised that Bridget Carleton wasn't protected. I wasn't. I thought Bridget kind of had a tough season last year. But there's a lot going on now because I think there's only 2 players that are even under contract, right? I think Olakosu, and then I'm not even sure if the other player that sat out, Uhas.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She sat out last year. Yeah, Dorka, if she's even going to come back. And those are the only 2. And that doesn't mean people get up in arms. It doesn't mean that Nafisa's not coming back or anything. But there's just a lot of signing to do.
Yes, exactly. Right? And the thing is, it's just a process and it takes time and contracts take time to do. So I think everyone's just waiting. And now I think the dates and the time and everything are out there. So that process will begin. But I will be surprised, like Nafisa hasn't come out to kind of vocally say, like, you know, I do want to stay here. I don't have any indication that she would leave. You know, you've seen a few of the big stars kind of say that. And, you know, Asia Wilson was like, I'm not leaving here. And Brianna Stewart said it. And so I don't think you necessarily have to do that. I just would be surprised if any of the really big players at that level would move at this, because they seem, you know, but you never know. So that will be the interesting part. I think for Bridget Carleton, I think what will be really intriguing to watch is that she's a top salaried player now, you know, and so she will be expected to lead that team. And that has never been her role with the Lynx. So that's going to be really interesting to see what she does there. What I think everyone will love about her is her willingness to, you know, work hard, play the right way, great defensive player, but like really being challenged to take her game to another level, to lead the team and be the first one on the board will be what Portland will face with her.
Absolutely. What do you like best about her game? And I know people say, oh, you said defense already, but offensively, you know, she's known for 3-pointers, but she wasn't draining them. Some games earlier last year, she didn't have any points.
Yeah, I think, you know, she's a great 3-point shooter, and that in this league or in any league, if you can shoot the ball, you're going to probably be on a roster somewhere. But I think a lot of times in her role with the Lynx, because you had Nafisa Collier, because you had Michaela McBride, because you had Courtney Williams, she would kind of just hide behind, well, I can just wait till they all score and but the coaches, the coaches wanted her to be more active in that. Now she won't have that. So she will have to step into that. And so, you know, I do think it's interesting because sometimes when players are given different roles, they can step into that. Will she? So that will be the big question mark with her. She's just a well-rounded player. She strikes me as a 6th player, but the opportunity has arrived for her to be a top player. I'm excited to see her in that level.
Let's take care of the business. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. And we also want to introduce this audience to our new Vice President of Business Development, Tammy Henderson. We hired her recently. We're really happy to have her on board, and I think she's going to do great things for the network as we grow. Again, best way to listen to the shows is to subscribe to your favorite podcast app. You can find all the shows at talknorth.com. And you should know the lineup by now. Roy Smalley, Lavelle Neal, myself on Chin Music for baseball, Russo and LaPanta for hockey, John Krasinski for the Timberwolves and NBA, Mark Rosen's show, Dawn's show, Kevin Gork's hockey show, and we have like 3 Vikings shows, including one with Alec Lewis, the athletic beat writer. Check it all out, and we do appreciate it. And now back to Dawn.
You know, I want to go back to Fee for a second. I think last week some people were a little freaked out because they saw her on the scooter still, but it was always known that she's going to have both of her ankles operated on. And even though no one knew the specifics, it doesn't seem logical that she'd have them both done at the same time, right? Because so you'd just be bedridden for how many months? So she's having her second one done. So this uproar, I was a little surprised about, thinking, well, didn't people remember what was being done?
Yeah, that's right.
How hard is that?
Yeah, I do think maybe it wasn't super clear to people. So that was just the confusion around it, is that it's not often. I can't even think of an example where someone would have both of them done at the same time. It's harder to recover. Obviously, she's got some other stuff going on outside of basketball as well. So I think it's always kind of been known that she would be coming into this season pretty late. But I probably was alarming to some people who weren't kind of thinking out like, ooh, the next surgery and then the actual start date and how short the season is. All of those things, maybe it just clicked for them when they saw her on the scooter. So, yeah, that's obviously worrisome for the Lynx. She's the best player. So, but I do, I feel pretty, actually, I don't even know because I'm just so curious to see how different the roster is going to look.
Right.
What will, maybe we'll be watching some new faces do some, obviously we will because they have the number 2 pick. So maybe that can kind of get rolling while she's getting ready to come back, so we'll see.
Yeah, and there's usually one domino that drops and Angel Reese got traded, right? So that's like the first of the big names that we're going to see. It must be exciting for you, especially so, and coming up and having to, you're going to be traveling with the broadcast team to see how all these things go. It's going to be
really interesting,
I think, right?
Yeah, and there's new coaches and the players, that player movement's going to be really interesting. I think Chicago has an opportunity to figure out like who they are and what they want to be and what that organization can be. So if you're starting all over, if Angel was the base of that program, that's clearly a reboot for that for Chicago. And so, and then Atlanta showing up. I thought Atlanta was really starting to kind of move into a higher echelon team. And so this could be a difference maker for them. I'm very curious to see if to have Angel Reese on your team, I think you need to have a really strong coaching presence. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. WNBA draft coming up. The consensus among people who do mock drafts has been that the Lynx were interested in Fam, the 19-year-old from Spain. But how do you take a 19-year-old when you just saw Betts play the way she played this entire season, and she's more of a ready to go and WNBA player for a team that's chasing championships? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's as interesting because if you get a player like her, you have to be willing to change your whole offense for her. And obviously it can be well worth it. But it is challenging. The Lynx have played a 5-out offense for a lot of years. And so, and they play like out of their elbows a lot with their post players. And so it really changes it now. Like we had Sylvia Fowles all those years. And there was some frustration in some of those years in trying to not just have everyone stare in at Syl and not move and just try to dump the ball into her. So it's like a unique way of playing. So I think that's a big part. It's like, what do the coaches want to do with that? I'm kind of intrigued by the 19-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about her because I haven't seen her play much other than everyone who talks about her just says like she's amazing. So that one I think is a little bit more of a question mark. I also think you could look at the backcourt too, long term. I don't know. I think this is a pretty good draft.
It is.
And so there's Coach Reeva's done a really nice job of getting herself a number 2 pick. So
yes.
I would think this would be a pretty challenging one for them. Like what is the biggest need? And then are you looking long term?
Right.
Or are we trying to win right now?
You think Cheryl is a type of coach that'd be willing to shift how she does things around talent?
I think so, because she's done that before. She's played with a big, before. So she knows what it takes. And then that you can rotate in and out so you can play both. I thought Betts just had a great tournament. And I think she probably raised her value in the tournament for what everyone was seeing. And it's just, at 6'7", there's just, whenever you see that, you're like, it's just so unique. There's not a ton of 6'7" that really can move and have post moves like she has. So wherever she ends up, I think it is probably a game changer for the team. Like, because, she's going to make an impact.
She even said something about the maturation process during the whole dance, that she started to see herself as her team saw her. Because sometimes you can have the talent and the skill, but you don't get that mindset, unless you're the top echelon, and you're going to the WNBA.
Right.
Paige Becker's, where you're playing with that swagger. To hear her kind of say that was interesting.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I can see that as a player. Like, everyone keeps like telling you something about yourself, but I think probably going through the tournament was reinforcing that, like, wait, we're knocking out not just some teams, some bad teams, we're knocking out the best teams. And I'm a huge part of that. And that's when it starts clicking in your own brain of like, yeah, okay, I am that player. And so I could see that in particular for a 6'7" young lady, because it does take longer to kind of feel comfortable and all of those things. She did mention the Lynx, and that she really respected Coach Reeve and has watched this. So I thought that was an interesting comment. That
little Easter egg drop there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a fun draft to watch.
I like, and maybe it's just because I feel like they're getting the band back together, seeing her sign Janelle McCarville as an assistant coach, talking about like people that know how to play in the post. What did you make of that?
I love it, love it, love it. I think that's one of the things that the Lynx do the best is like bring back all your players. Mm-hmm. This is why the league is so much stronger than it was 15 years ago, is because we've had all these great players come through, and now they're coming back, bringing all their great wisdom, all their stuff, all their swag to the teams and lifting those teams up. And so it's like, it's almost as entertaining to watch our bench with the coaches sitting on there, with Lindsay and Brunson. And that's super cool. And McCarville, to me, is one of my favorites because I loved her at the U. I loved how she played with the Lynx. And then I've talked to her quite a bit about her overseas experience, and she's just a character.
Yeah. It's going to be louder for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I would say I went over and did a story on Janelle, went to her place, her spread in Wisconsin. She was living at that time. She's living with her father, and it was like all ATVs and basketball hoops. And it was like every 16-year-old's favorite playland. It was like every fun toy you could possibly have. And she just rode around, did cool stuff, and had a blast. And so personality-wise, she's always been a blast. But also what I loved about her, one of the best passing posts I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think like we really got spoiled with players like her, because you start thinking like that all bigs can do what she did, and it's actually really unique. I love her whole, like her farm story and her work ethic. And, she is like Lindsay Whalen. She is who she is, and she doesn't change for anyone. And that's unique. And I think her presence around these new young players, she was coaching high school. And I had just talked to her a couple months ago, and I didn't know that they were thinking about bringing her in. And I was like, so what are you thinking about coaching? She was like, I like it. I like this coaching thing. So I think she's cut out for this role, in particular for the Lynx squad. Yeah. As you said, bringing the band back together, like it just feels very cool. But also, I think she's going to be a great coach.
Yeah.
So if we do end up going with the bets or something, she's going to be in good hands.
I think one of the things she was underrated for in her game, whether it was in college or also in the pros, is how quickly she sees and processes what's going on in the court, right? In terms, like you said, one of the best passing posts, but she made things turn quick. Yes. And I remember Lindsay saying, like, right when I was thinking about it, I should be getting the ball's in my hands from her, or something like that, as she said, whether it was college or with the Lynx. That's a skill set, but it's also a mindset. And to be able to teach that to a high schooler or to someone young coming in, like, listen, you kind of have to have eyes all around your head at that position.
Well, and what I like about what she has to give is that, like, if she's been coaching high schoolers, she's had success with it, is that you kind of know how you have to be with high school kids, and you have to be really positive and you have to uplift them. And she had a couple players that were Division I level. So I feel like now she has that piece of it, because sometimes former WNBA players get in and they're like overly tough, like they go so far because they were great, And so I always think that's the hardest adjustment for great players turning into coaches, is like, maybe you had something that other people didn't have. Like sometimes you have to see what you have, what your personnel has. I think she'll be really good at kind of reading players, understanding their needs, being that coach that, like, after practice can kind of go in and go, hey, I kind of see you in a way maybe others don't. I thought that was just a really great pickup, and I didn't know about it. So when I saw it, I was like, what? what?
Yeah. And just the reaction of everybody, whether it was from Way or BB, just like their pure excitement. You're like, oh, you can just kind of feel it that they're all thrilled too.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So let me ask you this: when it comes to Dawn Plitzaway and the Gophers, and we saw Nico Medved take his team to the Crown basketball tournament. People are like, well, why? And I was drawing the parallel. Well, look what Dawn did the first year. She took her team to the championship game of the WNIT that first year that she was there, but they didn't win. Then the WBIT, they did win. And then now Sweet 16. So it's getting your program in that mindset that there's more basketball to be played and also be visible. So first, let's start with the women's team. What did you see in terms of that evolution that she has done from getting them just into some of these tournaments that people say, why at the end of the year, to, oh, now I see the brilliance in that and getting, these women to that far?
Well, I think one in particular in this era of basketball where players transfer in and out, you want to get as many games under your belt as you can with one group of players. And so anytime you can extend the season that way, it makes sense for the program. The fans might not be that hyped about it, but it makes sense for them to do that. And obviously it was beneficial for them. And also, I think you can play in those tournaments with a lot less stress. And so it's sometimes easier to kind of show your skill set in those because there's not many eyes on you. There's not so much focus on the winning and losing. People have their eyes on another tournament. So I think it's kind of a sneaky way to get better and just... I think a lot of people, like if you're a top echelon team, you don't really want to do that, right? Because that's not where you belong or you feel like your team should belong. But when you're trying to get up to that top team, it's something you can do. I thought what Nico did was smart. I mean, that was obviously a money situation too. They were going to get paid, So, and that's the other big part of the game right now. You got to find money for players. So that made sense to me. And then especially because that program on the men's side has really turned over so many players. So like you really need to try to extend their season as much as you can. I like where that team is going. I like what him and Dave Thorson and that crew are doing. So, so I kind of think both programs have made the right moves in their postseason work.
And I just think back, like what Nico did with so few players for so many games. That was crazy, right?
Yeah, it was not good luck. How do you do that? Yeah, it's probably a lot of stress.
Lots.
I don't think we've spoken with you. I've spoken with you since the new CBA was signed by WNBA players, but we haven't had you on this network since then. You just want to tell us what you thought of the negotiating process and the final result?
Yeah, I was overall really super impressed with what the players did, how they stayed together. You were starting to feel the pressure of it because they were getting so close to like, we're going to have to start missing games if you don't get to a decision point. And then you just felt like there was going to maybe be some splinterings of like, what's going on? We want, because obviously all the players are not in the room. And so I always think that's the biggest worry from the players' union standpoint is how firmly can you stand together? And so I thought that it was like just a stellar job. I thought they did a great job of like thinking. I love that they thought about the old school players and they got them the $100,000 based on how many years you've been in the league. So not all of them will get that, but somewhere between $30,000 and $100,000 for veteran players. Stuff like that to me matters a lot because that's the recognition of people who have gone before you.
Yes.
And so then you can really say those things like we stand on their shoulders and mean it because you help pay them. So I think that was really important. I love the pay scale. I think it's appropriate. I think people wanted more. More would have been great, but I think it was more, it was probably more than I thought they were going to get.
Exactly.
So yeah, I was really impressed. And I think because it's setting a standard for all sports, I think it was really critical that they got to a certain level and the revenue share at the 20% seems fair and right for where they are right now. And hopefully that can continue to grow as the league grows.
What I really like, and I'm trying to remember the woman's name, she was an economics professor from Harvard that really advised them on how to do it, saying, listen, take the emotion out of it. This is just about economics, and this is how it works. Don't say, oh, there are only this many games and blah, blah, blah. Let's look at the sheer economics of it.
I love that. And that's what I was hoping because, that's to me, the secret weapon of negotiating is the players are so emotional, and then you have your lawyers who are lawyers. So like, what is the piece? And I feel like the owners always hold that advantage because they're so used to dealing in that world. Mm-hmm. And so like, that was the sneaky negotiation piece that I thought was really outstanding, is that they thought like, who could help us, get this done? And so I would just think right now that for these players that are re-signing, that like life is going to look completely different for them. And it's not necessarily that everyone's going to be millionaires, but it's like, now you don't have to worry about working overseas. You really wouldn't have to do anything other than play in the WNBA now. Mm-hmm. And that really wasn't necessarily true when some of them were making $78,000.
Well, and I think it can also help the players physically, right? Because before they were just playing constantly year round, playing through injuries. And then mentally, they were mentally exhausted. Like, okay, where am I now? Oh, I'm going back to the States to go to training camp. I think that we'll see better basketball.
Agreed. It's hard on the body. And I would think, if you could do something here that's fun, like Unrivaled or one of the other 5-on-5 or 3-on-3 leagues, and then have a break and just work out. I think that's like the best case scenario. I'm always so impressed with Kayla McBride because she has spent so much of her career overseas. And you just kind of look at the years and the amount of basketball time that she has on her knees. And it's pretty astounding how much time she's put in. So yeah, I totally agree. You want to be practicing. You don't want to be playing all the time.
Well, Leah, let me ask you, for you personally, now that you're going to be traveling and covering the WNBA, like for you, you can kind of dig in, like for you mentally, to focus on that and zero in on that. That's got to be a luxury as well for a broadcaster.
Yeah, I agree. That'll be super fun. And it's what I love about it is that you just widen your scope so much because, with the Lynx games, we focus so much on the Lynx, and so, which is awesome. And you go to their shoot-arounds and their practices and you get a really strong insight on that team. And then you see the rest of the teams as well. But this will really be, being able to get into other teams, practices and shoot-arounds and spending more time with them, I think will just be so much more fun to see like the bigger scope of all the teams and what they look like. And then just almost easier to be an analyst because you'll have real things to be able to say, well, this looks different there. This is what I saw when we were on their home court. Like just those experiences will be so much more. But yeah, you're right. Just kind of digging into one thing will be really fun.
And before I let you go, and I know it's the Timberwolves, but I just love your relationship with Ant, how he calls you Shoddy. Hey, Shoddy. Because someone said, yeah, well, Leah's over there. He's like, Leah? And he looks at you and goes, oh, Shoddy. And I was like, that so is hilarious. He loves you. But he was like, no, she's Shoddy to me.
Yes, I thought that was hilarious. I was like, I didn't know what was going on. And that was in the locker room one day. And everyone, when I got out of the interview with Julius, everyone was cracking up, all the reporters. I'm like, what happened? Yep. But yes, so hopefully we will see Ant soon here.
Yes.
A little concerning.
Yeah.
Seeing him sit over
Talk
there.
about miles on the knees.
Yes. I know. It's very worrisome for an athlete at his caliber and his level to have achy knees right now, But it is the reality of that. Of the game.
And like you point out with the women, Ant has spent a lot of time playing for Team USA, and you wonder if that has had an effect on him.
Yeah, I know.
And he also doesn't take games off unless he has to during the season.
Yeah, like I think that has been a concern for the Timberwolves coaches. Is like you need and I think that is at that level. Everyone's trying to get be Kobe and do the hours and do the 14. I practice till 3 a.m. But then there's that level of we've got to recuperate and we've got to take time off. And that's one thing that's kind of cool to see at the professional level is because you have the massage therapist and all the people working for you trying to make sure that you maintain that level of healthiness that's not doing anything and recovering is really critical. So hopefully before the playoffs start, we get some of that recovery.
Well, I don't work for Aura, but this Aura ring, that's the number one thing that I learned out of it. I thought, it's going to tell me push myself more. It's like, you had a lot of something yesterday.
Agreed.
You need to relax. And I was
that
was
mine too.
Isn't that crazy?
Apparently my nervous system is like, it's always going.
I'm with you.
My first week I own my ring, it said, and I'm thinking, I'm doing all right? I was working out every day. I'm doing all that. I'm sleeping. It's like, are you okay?
Yeah,
It's like, you need to dial it back, girl. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just said, for a couple months, I'm just going to do exactly what it says. And next thing you know, I'm feeling better. I'm fitting back in my clothes. I'm like, recuperative rest. Who would have thought about
matters.
it? Yeah. Taylor Heisey was saying that I think Team USA has them for their hockey team. And she was relaxing. She goes, I don't know. I get a call from one of our coaching staff across the country saying, whatever you did yesterday on your off day to recuperate, do again. And she goes, yeah, I think Parker and I had steak and watched TV on the couch. Yeah. Yes. So I'm like, all right. Okay. They're like, do it again. She's back. Okay.
Who knew I had a professional athlete's regimen?
See,
I can sit on the couch. Yeah. I'm good at that part of being a professional athlete.
Yes,
sitting on the couch part.
Mastered that part.
Yes.
Well, Leah, I can say this coming up. You're leading off our brand new season coming up this Friday on the 10th for Unscripted.
All right.
So we're finally going to unleash our season opener. So I'm just really happy to add this extra caveat to say that, you know, this next step in your dreams of what you wanted is coming true and you're going to rock it. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dawn, so much. And thanks for having me today.
Yeah, always. We'll have you back. We know this is going to be crazy busy, but we'll have you back.
I would love to.
All right. Thanks.